Tori Riddell, and you're tuned into The Mo Show, where I aspire to inspire your mind, body, and soul. And as you guys can see, I have 3 special guests with me today. This is Brittany, Caitlin, and Jessica. And as you guys can tell from the title, we're talking about mixed chicks, mixed girls, biracial, multiracial, all of those terms. So I have some questions here. I'm going to interview these ladies, and they're going to tell us a little bit more about their experience being mixed. Okay, so I'll start with you. What race and or ethnicities do you identify with?
I identify as mixed or multiracial, but specifically black, white, and Mexican. I'm 50% Mexican, and then black and white, 50% black and white.
Okay. Caitlin?
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Caitlin. I am mixed with, I identify as mixed, and I'm mixed with black and white. My mother is white, and my father is African American, and so yeah, that's a little bit about my identity.
And then I'm Brittany. I identify as mixed. My mom is white and my dad is black.
Okay, so let's just kind of talk about the word mixed, and we talked a little bit more off camera. And you guys all kind of said mixed, and I'm not mixed, so I didn't know like if that was like an offensive term. Sometimes people are like multiracial, biracial, multicultural, a lot of different terms that people use. But you guys are all okay if somebody calls you mixed.
Yeah,
I definitely prefer being called mixed.
Okay.
I would too over biracial or anything mixed.
Wait, what's wrong with?
Or
breed or mulatto or something.
Mulatto, yeah, something. Mixed is, I feel like, a general term that doesn't read any like more scientific or
like you're like you're kind of like made up in a lab, and somebody like just constructed you up together with different things, just mixed. Okay, that makes sense. So do people mistake your identity for something else? Like, do they think you're mixed with something else?
Yeah, I feel like mine is different. A lot of people, I think when I speak, they think I'm mixed with just black and white. But if you're just looking at me, I think they just solely think I'm Latina. So that's mostly my issue. So if I'm talking on the phone, so like I'm a teacher, so if I'm talking on the phone with my students' parents, they automatically assume I'm black. Like with everything, they meet me in person, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you the teacher I was talking to?" That's me. I thought you was black.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, and has that changed for you from like high school to college? So like, or high school to now. I know when me and Jess went to, or we graduated high school at the same time. And I remember meeting you in 8th grade, and I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody who knew you, somebody who knew me. They were like, "Yeah, come meet this girl. Like, you're gonna think like it was like you were like a show or some spectacle." They were like, you know, you look at her and you think, but she's black and she sound black and she talk black, and I was like, so you were like a unicorn, you know, like something that nobody has ever seen before. And I was like, it was, I think because we're 13 at that point, I was a little confused at who you were. But do you feel like that's changed from high school, especially with you like into, you know, the social groups that you interact with now, and how that changes your, like what maybe people would say your identity is?
Yeah, I think in high school it was more, I grew up, I didn't say my parents' races, but my dad was Mexican and my mom was black and white, but my dad left, so I only grew up under my mom, which was mostly black culture, like black music and food and just, I guess, the way we talk. I didn't even realize that, honestly, until high school when people started pointing it out to me, and I'm like, all right.
Like, I'm just me.
Yeah. And then I started noticing, like, on my dance team, I'm the only person that's not black, or like on our cheer team, in the groups of friends, I'm like, dang, I ain't black, like I am different. And I think when I got to college, I started exploring more of my Latina side, and so now I think my friend group is more diverse. It's not solely black like it was in high school, which I did have like Latin friends in high school, but like my close circle really was mostly black, and now I feel like it's a good balance of both of them, because I think I started to engage more with my Latina side once I was in college.
Yeah, because like when you just said, because we cheered together, danced together and stuff, you're like, I'm the only, I don't know, like as a kid, especially not paying attention a lot to different cultural things, I would just be like, no, like, yeah, we're all black on the scene. Like, because for one, I have a light-skinned mom, a light-skinned sister. So I'm like, I know you're mixed with all of these things, but to me, you were like everyone else. Is that something that's like offensive that I or others don't recognize that, oh, you're not just black, I just see you as black with me
Yeah.
at the time?
It was offensive actually in high school. I didn't really say it a lot, but when people would be like, "Girl, you're black," or like, "You just black," and it was like a one drop rule that people were explaining to me, and I'm like, it kind of felt like dismissive of the other parts of me.
Yeah.
So I think back in high school it was offensive at first because I felt like we were dismissing the other part of me, and I clearly am not black, like solely black.
Yeah.
And so I didn't completely fit in, but people were kind of trying to make it happen. So it just felt forced.
Yeah.
So that's what made
Yeah.
it.
That makes sense. Caitlin, so do people mistake your identity for something else?
Yeah, I think I used to think in high school everybody just knew I was mixed. I felt like I looked like a mixed girl, but when I got to college, everybody was like, "Oh, I just assumed you were just black." So I guess that kind of, and who I hung around a lot made it just, and so it did feel like, oh, like you didn't recognize that other part of my identity. So I think I had a little bit of similarity there, and then also I think people think I'm Latina, like, as well. So I went to like Puerto Rico, and like all my friends, they were like, "Oh, welcome to the museum," and then they just automatically spoke to me in Spanish, and so, and I get that a lot, like Dominican or Puerto Rican or something, Afro Latina.
I can see that. She said I can see that.
Yeah, and then I also have Latina friends, so, and I do go like salsa dancing, so I think I could just, I don't know, I feel like I could blend in wherever in those spaces, black, brown.
So when they think that you are Puerto Rican or do you like, is that offensive? Or?
It's not offensive to me. I just like say no, I'm not. Like I never want to also like appropriate. Like that'd be stupid to like try to pretend like I am. And I'm not. So I'm like, no, I'm not. But I'm just here, and these are my friends. So.
Just welcome here.
Yeah, just I'm here to appreciate the culture. So yeah.
Brittany, what about you?
I usually they usually ask if I'm white or black. Sometimes, depending on what color my hair is, if it's black or darker, I do get mistaken for Hispanic. A couple of times Samoan, but anytime I'm in a like Mexican restaurant, they always speak to me in Spanish. So, and I'm like, and then I feel like I'm offending them, and I'm like, oh no, sorry, like I can't speak Spanish, and I'm like, wait, like they're the ones in the wrong, you know?
They're just assuming what's going on with me.
Yeah, but I never take. Honestly, I always like. I love it when people think I'm something other than what I am.
Why?
I don't know. I just think it's
more
pretty
mysterious.
cool. Well, here's the thing. I grew up thinking I was Native American. My whole entire life up until I took Ancestry, and then I was like, oh, I'm just black and white. And so,
well, when you say Native, like you knew your mom was white, you know, like.
So my grandpa who's white is literally my skin complexion.
You are not.
Like he's darker than me.
No, that's true. Yeah,
he gets mistaken for Hispanic all the time.
I've been mistaken for that. I did.
And his mom is even darker than he is. And so for some reason we grew up thinking that she was born on the reservation and all this stuff, and like
It just made
barefoot and like literally down to the tribe and everything. And then he took his ancestry and he's like, guys,
Europe.
and then I took mine and I'm like, so we're just black and white. So when
Did
I
you
get
say what parts of like Europe the white ancestry was from?
honestly I don't remember, but also there's a little bit of Asian and a little bit of other stuff.
Somehow, somewhere.
There's this mix in there somehow.
Genes are crazy.
They are, especially people of color genes. Like they just you can just get mistaken for so much, especially when you. But I mean, it's kind of like colors. Not to compare you guys to colors, but when you mix colors together, like yes, you know, red and white are gonna give you pink. Then they give you a different shade of pink, and depending on how much is mixed with it, like colors, like just how you look and how you look is called your ethnicity, right? So that's a whole other thing. Race, ethnicity, all that creed, all that stuff. But it can you can not even be mixed and just look, have the same appearance, this color and you come out this color. It's very different. So it's also good not to just assume. But like, how would you want someone to? Would you want somebody to ask you, or is that like so cliche? Like, why y'all keep asking me? Why does it matter? What am I? You know? Do you guys want somebody to ask you? And if so, how would you want them to ask you that?
I think it's okay to ask. I kind of feel like the question is asked so much, even though it's not offensive. It may be cliche. I'm always like, you know, are you? If they ask, are you mixed? And I'm like, yes, I'm mixed. And then the next follow-up question is like, what's with what, or like what parent is which? And I'm like, the usual mixture, you know. It's always like, you know, the usual black dad, white mom. So I kind of, it's almost like I feel like the cliche in the mixedness a little bit, yeah.
Because it's like what they would have thought.
It's like, yeah, usually this is what it is.
So that's the question of which. Well, just you answered. Your dad is Mexican. Your mom is black and white. And do you, which parent is which race, and do you think that matters based on how you grew up and experienced the world?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I was with my mama, so like, and I feel like she has a mix of, I guess, black and white culture, but mostly black culture. I was like, in terms of what we eat, the music we listen to, the friend group she grew up with. So yeah, that's what I was around growing up, and it influenced the way that I live life.
Yeah, my mom is white, my dad was black, and I grew up around my dad's side of the family just black. The crazy thing is, I never knew like racism was a thing. Like, we were so sheltered. I never knew like anything about it. And then yeah, I grew up around my black side, so I'm more comfortable around black people than I am white people. But the crazy thing is, I have cousins who are, their mom is white, their dad is black. They're more comfortable around white people because they grew up around our white side. You know, so.
And it's interesting because your mom is white, but it's like, so like, is she just the only outlier and then everybody else is just like okay, everybody, we're all the same here, and then, or does your mom like, do you even notice she's white when you're around your black family?
A lot of the brothers are with white women, so it was like normal to see like, you know, my mom's white, my dad's black, oh, my aunt's white, my uncle's black. That was like.
Caitlin, what about you?
Hold on, ask the question.
The question was about what parent is what race, and do you think that matters based on how you grew up and experienced?
Yeah. So for me, I have a similar experience where I grew up more around my black family, and then we can't forget that we live. I mean, I do. I live, and I think, and I know that you're from Wyandotte County, so like culture and kind of plays a part of where you grew up too. So, and then also my white side of the family, they were a lot older. Like, my mom was a only child up to the time she was like maybe up in her late 20s, and then her father, my grandfather, who's passed away, had 2 other children, and so they were a little bit estranged too, and he lived in Colorado, so I met them like once or twice. And then the other white people in my family were older, and they lived a little bit further out in Kansas, so I wasn't able to see them as much, and then they weren't here because they passed away when I was younger. So the core of my family, even my white and half Mexican siblings, they were taken in by my black side as well. So we just kind of grew up and identified. I did, yeah. We're in the black culture, and I identified more with my black side. And then as far as racism, I didn't know. I think I realized it a little bit. There were situations with like maybe white neighbors and things, but I almost want to associate it with being like lower class. I think I processed it as being lower, like a lower class and upper class thing, as when I was younger versus when I got to college, and I was like, oh, there was a little racism in there as well. And then like also people that don't agree with race mixing, and I think that played in a factor in like a couple of my father's friends that ended up not being his friends anymore. And then
so this was black people who didn't like
these were white people.
Oh, they were
white.
Okay.
I had some white friends that I think that were just kind of like, well, we're glad you and my mom aren't together anymore, because we really didn't agree with that
Yeah.
anyway. So it's like, oh, you thought like that? Well,
Yeah.
we're not friends.
And
So,
that's
yeah.
and that's kind of like when you said about the race mixing thing. I feel like more of a lot of time. Well, I don't know. I think you see it different ways. Like as far as like I feel like black people, it gets to be more. It's more socially acceptable to be like, why are you with that white girl? As opposed to the white family not accepting the black person, then they're racist. But when the black people don't accept, like, you got another white girl, you know, it's just like a cultural, like, mocking type of thing. And we're not considered being racist because we don't want you to mix races or something like that.
Yeah. And I, like, as far as racism, and I, actually, as you guys were speaking, that plays a part into why I think we were more in touch with our black side as well, because my grandma was the only, like, full white person in my family that I know, honestly. But it's because she fell in love with a black man, and they were in Kentucky, and her family didn't approve, so they basically, like, kicked her out. And, like, so she came to Kansas City with him, and then I don't even know any of my family in Kentucky. Like, completely don't know any of my white family. So I think that plays a part in the culture that you end up, you know.
Because even while, you know, black family may give you a hard time, we're not generally going to shun you and exile you for having a person of a different race.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, sometimes white people take that very seriously. You are not in my family anymore if you create mixed children.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My mom, when she got pregnant with my oldest sister, which was the first mixed kid of the family, her white side told her, your baby's going to be born with polka dots.
No.
What? That was going to be a white baby born with black polka dots.
No clue.
Just, I don't know,
Literally
they're
ignorant. I was saying literally
Yeah.
ignorant, having no clue.
Yeah. But, like, even on our black side, like my papa's family, like, some of them, even still, not as much, but we still get, like, side eyes sometimes, like, for being in a family.
Yeah. Kind of like that
As a, like,
acceptance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, some don't accept it.
I would say in like my black side of the family, no one ever made me feel like I didn't belong, but there were also comments.
Yeah.
So they're like, you know, I feel like black people just like to joke anyway. So they were like, I had family members in a joking way say, you light skinned slave, go make us some waters and stuff. I'm like, that kind of, as a kid, you kind of internalize that a little bit.
Like, you in the house slave, and
yeah, so
yeah.
There is some of that, like that poking fun that still kind of like gets you like, dang, like as you're growing up, like, am I valued in this family as much as everybody else?
Yeah, which brings me to the question of like, do you feel like you had to pick a side? Which I don't know if that really is happening, you guys, like if that is appropriate in you guys' instances, because you kind of have one side you're closer with. But do you feel like, I guess the question could be like, do you feel like you could go mix and mingle on the white side of your family and be accepted and feel included and feel like I'm white and say I'm white, as you can easily say I'm black or I'm Mexican?
No, I mean just based off the fact that I didn't grow up around my other white family, and that's not to say like I have full white sibling. I have a sister that is half Mexican and half white, and my mother is white, so I can be around them. But they also grew up in Wyandotte County, so there's a little bit of like it's like almost like, okay, they relate to the culture a little bit more, even though they obviously know that they're not.
Right.
So I can relate to them, but as far as if I go out, like I can articulate myself and mix and mingle, but I don't think I could go and like be a part of a community and like just say these are in, I don't know, maybe in, I'll just say like maybe in Johnson County and just say, hey, this is my new friend group, without it being more so you know, black and brown people around me.
Yeah.
Pick a side. I feel like in high school, I feel like I had to pick a side. I feel like people pick my side for me, like very blessed.
That's fair.
But and then in college, I kind of felt like I had to pick a side too, because I got more in touch with like my Latin side, and so then a lot of people came to me like, oh, so now you Latino, or now you want to be Mexican, or oh, like kind of throwing shade, but now I feel like I accept myself as mixed, and I think when you accept yourself as what you are, not fitting into any one, then you could fit in all. because I am a part of this community. I'm mixed, but I'm a part of this community.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I guess it feels different, but I think once I owned, I'm mixed, I'm Mexican, I'm black, and I'm white, I'm all of it. It made me feel more comfortable in each space.
You don't have to put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
I don't think I was ever like put in a position where I had to pick a side between my family. I think, and like growing up in school and stuff, like I said earlier, I just always felt more comfortable around black people. So naturally, I just gravitated toward black people. But picking a side, I don't think I've ever had to pick a side. I have been told, you're not black, you're 50% black. Stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I'm black and I'm white.
Yeah.
You know, but.
So have you not been, has anybody not been black enough?
Oh yeah, I definitely have not been black.
Same.
Yeah. You have family members that be like, you're just so white, Katie. Like, you're gonna marry a white man. And I'm like, okay, like, I mean, I don't feel like that, but okay.
But if I am, is it a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing. They didn't treat it like it was a bad thing, but it was like, okay, you are trying to put me in a box.
Yeah.
And then make me feel like, oh, I can't come around this side, or like, I can't come in this area of our family because like I'm too white. I won't blend in as much with you guys. So that's something I have internalized a little bit too. Like, I'm not black, but now I feel like I can move around, and as you get more comfortable with yourself, you're like, I can move in all these spaces.
And friend circles are gonna feel different sometimes than family too, because there's a lot of dynamics in that. But you choose your friends, like so you're going with the people who you can connect with, who have values similar to yours, who accept you. You know, even if your family, not necessarily saying your family doesn't accept you, but your family is your family. You don't get to pick them. Your friends, you would hope you have a friend that accepts who you are fully.
Right.
For you, oh, okay.
And I think my family's more mixed. Like, we're all mixed. So I never really felt any kind of way, with my family. I think in high school is when I felt like I wasn't Latin enough to be with or I wasn't Mexican enough to hang with the Mexican kids or the Latino kids, and I wasn't black enough. Like, some people would come to me and be like, you just want to be black. You trying to be black. Like, I'm trying to live my life, like, the way that I live it. Like, allow me to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing, like, because, we grow up in a social community, like, outside of race or anything. You grow up in a place that has more diversity. And so that you're trying to be black, it's like, even if you were, like, let's say you guys are just white and you grew up around a lot of people of color. And so people will think you're trying to be one way when this is all you've ever known. Like, how am I, because I like to eat the soul food that they're eating or listen to the music that comes from them. Like, this is all I've known. Even though my family is white in this little section, culturally, this is what I've grown up around. These are people who I went to school with. These are the friends that I've found. So I'm not trying to be anything
Right.
but what I've known.
I think that's the issue of combining, like, race and cultural aspects, because like race and culture are completely different. But
Right.
when you mix those things, then it gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, that's true. What's different about your mixed? I put Irish, but I like the word mixed, so I'm going mixed. What's different about your mixed experience? Like, do you feel like you have an experience, and I don't know how many mixed friends you guys have, but do you feel like you have an experience that's different than other mixed people or other mixed friends or family members?
Oh yeah, I do, definitely. I mean, like I said, I have cousins who are white mom, black dad, and they feel very uncomfortable around black people. And so that's, completely different than how I feel.
Like how you see the world?
Yeah. She is mixed as well. This is Kayla.
Okay.
So,
She feel that.
I feel, were you finished?
yeah.
I think the only thing I can say is maybe different is that, like, okay, so my black father took care of my white mother's kids that weren't his. So, like, it was just, I guess I felt like looking through my siblings' eyes, I could see, like, maybe it's so strange to other people we're walking around the grocery store and like my sister who are a little bit older than me like, Daddy, can I get this? And they're like, this blonde hair, blue eyed girl is saying this to her dad. Or my oldest sister is like, are people looking at my dad like you like pedophile and thinking there's something going on, but like no, that's his daughter. And that's how we're treated. And I have a brother too, so I think that's the biggest thing where if we're all together, or maybe if it's just my dad and all of us together, it's like,
No
like,
one knows what to think.
How does this all work out?
Yeah.
So, but I think now my family's just so blended with my like stepmother and my real mom, and then like my siblings that my dad raised, and so like we all come together. So I think that's like strange to a lot of people, where it's like, okay, you got your baby mama,
This family and that,
your
yeah,
wife,
that is.
and we're all getting along, and we're celebrating like Mother's Day together, like my real mom and my stepmom, and we're all giving them gifts, all my siblings, and we're just all together. So I think that's just a very unique thing about my family, where it's like already people have issues with like with ex-wives and things like that,
Right.
but we're just all blended. Blended up.
That is really nice.
As far my experience different. I think just when people, you both said like people can look at you and be like, oh, you're mixed. When people look at me, I don't think they assume I'm mixed. It's when I start talking, and then they're like, oh, are you mixed? And then it comes out. So I think that's the only way that my experience is different, is that people can't tell. I don't think people can tell I'm mixed by looking at me. I mean, I never really went around and asked people, but yeah.
But what about
it's
like being
not
with
so.
your family? I mean, because you're the only one in your family who is half Mexican, right?
I don't think, but we all kind of look similar. Like if you looked at my mom with me, you would probably assume she was Latina. But like away from me, she probably looks black and white. But if she was with me, you'd be like, oh, okay, they're Latina or something.
Yeah.
But when my sister and I am together, yeah, for sure. I think people probably assume we're friends because we don't have any similarities. I don't think we look alike at all.
Yeah, I have the same thing with my sister.
I think it's just a lesson in like, but also I think the world is evolving so much. I mean, not that people don't have that prehistoric mindset, but just families are so different. You don't know how, if somebody says that's my sister, they look nothing like them, they're a different race, like you accept it and you go, like that's what you should do. You accept it, you go with what they're saying. You don't know how people define family. It could be blood related, it could not. And it also is none of our business to try to decide that is, So I don't know. I feel like in this day and age, I'm personally less shocked by seeing an Asian baby in the store with a black mom. Like, I don't know. It's just like, oh, okay, this is their person. However they got with them. But I think a lot growing up, especially, I was probably more like investigative. Like, well, how does that work? And this and that, But maybe that's just the naive kid, or is that just the world evolving? I don't know.
I think it has a lot to do with just people are just genuinely curious.
Yeah, that's what
Because even when I see, like, if I were to see your family out, I'd be like, wow, like, okay, so she's blonde hair, blue eyes. She definitely looks like she's black and Hispanic, like, and I'm like trying to.
But not in like a judgy way, just in a way. I'm curious to know how that's happening. Yeah.
And then also, I think like people are more mixed nowadays. Like, and so the way the genes work together is so unpredictable, and so you could be super different than your biological family, and it's natural, So
right. Even
you can't assume anything nowadays.
Right.
That's very true. Genes and genetics. Okay. Last question is: can you tell about a time where being mixed race has not benefited you, or has caused the conflict?
I would say I looked at this question and I was like, how has it not benefited me? Like when thinking about it, but I will say like in relationships, if a man I was with said that like you like said something beneficial to me about being better because I'm a mixed girl versus because of whatever my attitude or however. And it really put a damper on that relationship because it's like I identify more black, and then I have a majority of like my grandmother, my aunts, the people that I look up to, they're probably like more brown skin and stuff. And I
Mhm.
feel like if I can't be with somebody that, you know, puts me on a pedestal just because I'm light skinned.
Yeah, they celebrate.
That's why I'd be like, "Ugh, I just can't even do that.
Yeah.
So that's I think maybe that's
Like
the only way.
fetish.
Yeah, don't fetishize me.
That makes sense.
I don't think being mixed, I ever had wasn't a benefit for me. I think it's not being solely one, having everything from one culture. And in terms of a relationship, so like most of my boyfriends have been black, and so like going into meeting their families, you kind of get like, I don't know, I'm not black, but I sound black. And I have some things from that culture, but I'm not completely it. So it's not, so I don't think being mixed I've ever felt like it was not a benefit for me, but not having one sole cultural being, I think.
And it probably would be different if, like, if, like, let's say you were half black and then a quarter white and Mexican, and then probably, for one, you probably would look a little bit different. Like, if somebody just saw you, you'd look a little bit different. Would you feel like you would have less controversy over, like, what people are assuming about you if that was, like, because you are really immersed in the black culture?
Yeah, if I had some kind of features like curly hair or like, you know, like I do get darker, but it's not like black people dark. It's like Latino darker.
Yeah.
So, if I had some kind of features, then yeah. But I also like even stepping in Latin spaces, like I don't speak a language, I don't know like the cultural things that they know. So you still feel not completely, you know, accepted.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a non-benefit of it, is that you look like you should be, or you feel like you should be accepted, but you don't feel fully accepted.
Yeah.
Like, darn, I'm an imposter in my own.
There we go.
In my own
You get
spaces.
imposter syndrome in all different spaces, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, but it goes back to once you accept it, this is who I am this, it gets easier. And once the people that you're around accept you as being mixed, like.
Yeah, not just, Because, like, just saying, like, now I'm thinking back, like, oh, you're black. Like, okay, you're not just black. And that's hurtful to not acknowledge all parts of you, you know, from people who are your friends and your close people. Because it's not fully who you are. And did you guys feel like you ever had, like, an identity crisis? Or, like,
For sure.
where you just...
Yeah.
Brittany's like, no.
I think it's like at some point when you're figuring out,
Yeah.
you're especially in high school and stuff, you're figuring things out, who you are, and you're like, and those people say those comments are even just kind of misidentifying you. You just kind of take it a little bit of it in, even if it's super negative or just like not meant to be negative at all. And you're just like, okay, like, who am I? Do I have to pick? People even ask that question. Do you have to pick a side? Do you have to pick a side? No, I don't feel like it, but now I feel like.
Because you're asking me.
I don't
do
know.
I?
You question a lot of things, and so I think, I mean, I've had a little bit of an identity crisis, but as you get older and you move through the world and your spaces, you're like, okay, I'm okay with being who I am.
When you accept yourself, like, people don't have a choice but to accept you or to, you know, not. But it's not. Disengage with that. Like, you get the confidence in yourself that it doesn't matter if anyone else is accepting you.
Right.
And I think it's more in that like high school time or teen, you know, when you're developing, because you
want to fit in.
Yeah, you're finding people that are most common to you. And how do you do that? Like, is it the way that you speak? Is it the way that you do things?
The sports
is it what you look like?
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's kind of what you look like.
Yeah.
And
especially at our school, absolutely.
Yeah. And so for me, I didn't fit into that. And so it caused like a disconnect to who I felt like I really was, or was I pretending to be someone? Like, people made me question myself, like, dang, am I trying to be black? Like, dang, am I?
It's just how I'm socialized.
Or you can't have more than one social friend group. You can't. Like, you find a side and you stick there and you stay with these people, and, you know, you talk to people here and there in class a little bit, but past the period, you go find your friends and you sit with your friends at lunch and things like that. It's like we can have more than one space to do those things.
Yeah. I will say also, well, this is off topic of the identity crisis, but I have thought about this. It's like when, like, my own sister was like, Katie, do you even like white people? And it's like, yeah, I like white people just fine. I'm just like not around them enough to have like my friend group be a majority or even half. You know, and in the schools I grew up in.
Yeah, that's not the majority of people, especially now. It's not the majority of the people here. Unless you're seeking out intentionally these specific people, you're not gonna find that.
Yeah, I agree. It's the demographics. Because as an adult, I've had the most white friends I've ever had because I work with you know, white people. So it's like completely different. You know, growing up that way.
Yeah. I mean, I love being who I am.
That's good. I mean, I think the older you get, the more you come into your own, regardless of race and ethnicity or not. Like, I think just as you get older and once you get more comfortable with yourself, I thought you were gonna fall. More comfortable with yourself, that others can accept that too. Thank you guys for joining us in this conversation. Obviously, I'm not mixed, but I was very, very intrigued by this topic. So I was like, let me find some, I mean, not let me find, I didn't know all of them. So it wasn't really hard to find, but let me reach out and coordinate this. I'm sure there's a lot of other people who either feel the same way or have experienced these same things. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It's right next to the subscribe button so you're notified every time I post a video. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.